Padre Pio was born Francisco on May 25, 1887 in Italy. His parents were peasant farmers. As a child, he was very religious, and by the age of 5, he reportedly made the decision to dedicate his life to God. Fortunately, his parents were also very religious, and they supported his Catholic development. Francisco was known for taking on penances, and his mother once scolded him for sleeping on a stone floor. From his tender age, Francisco was able to see guardian angels and spoke with Jesus and the Virgin Mary. This was not something taught to him, but occurred so naturally, he assumed other people could see them too. He spent many years as a child, tending to a small flock of sheep. Unfortunately, the work meant he was unable to attend school regularly, so he quickly fell behind other kids his age. Francisco was also sickly. In 1897, after 3 years of schooling, Francisco asked if he could become a friar. His parents traveled to a nearby community of monks and asked if Francisco could join. He was told he needed more education first. In order to prepare Francisco, his parents hired a private tutor. To pay the cost of the tutor, his father traveled to America to find work and sent the money he earned home. At the age of 15, Francisco entered the monastery. Brother Pio, as he was known, became a priest in 1910, but was permitted to remain at home because of his poor health. On September 20th of that year, Padre Pio was hearing confessions when he felt pain in his hands and feet. He noticed the stigmata, the wounds of Christ appearing. The wounds smelled of roses, and although they continued to weep, they never became infected. Doctors who later examined the stigmata were amazed at their perfectly round shape. By 1919, word began to spread about Padre Pio's stigmata, and people had come from far away to examine him. Padre Pio himself was uncomfortable with his newfound popularity and the attention he received. A church investigation into his stigmata concluded that his condition was not faked. In 1947, a humble Polish priest visited Padre Pio, who prophetically told him that he would rise to the highest post in the Church. That priest became Pope John Paul II in 1978. Padre Pio became internationally famous. He was known for his piety, charity, and the quality of his preaching. He famously advised, "Pray, hope, and don't worry." Padre Pio died on September 23, 1968. His funeral was attended by over 100,000 people. Pope John Paul II recognized Padre Pio as a saint on June 16, 2002. His feast day is September 23rd, and he is the patron of civil defense volunteers and adolescents.
Depth of my soul, find the sins that I hold. Make me pure, holy, and new. Depth of my soul, find the sins that I hold. Make me pure, holy, and new. Gift from above, filled with God's love, never afraid, always so brave. Come help us to follow the path of our Lord, with always His love to guide us.
Saint Michael the Archangel isn't a saint in the traditional sense, but rather he is an angel and the leader of all angels and the army of God. This is what the title Archangel means, that he is above all others in rank. However, Michael the Archangel is still called a saint because he resides in heaven in communion with God. Michael the Archangel has four main responsibilities or offices as we know from Scripture and Christian tradition. The first is to combat Satan. The second is to escort the faithful to heaven at their hour of death. The third is to be a champion of all Christians in the Church itself. And the fourth is to call men from life on earth to their heavenly judgment. Very little is known about Michael the Archangel other than what we know from Scriptures, which themselves are sparse. He is only mentioned 4 times in the Bible. In Daniel, he is mentioned twice. The first time as one who helped Daniel, and the second time he is mentioned with regard to the end times of the world, a time when he will stand and defend the righteous. His next mention comes in the Epistle of St. Jude, where he is said to guard the tombs of Moses and Eve, and has contended with Satan over the body of Moses. The final mention is in Revelation, where St. Michael and his angels do battle with the dragon. There are other scriptures where St. Michael is implied, but not mentioned by name, such as the angel who defends the gate to paradise. Today, St. Michael the Archangel is invoked for protection, especially from lethal enemies. He is the patron of soldiers, police, and doctors. Saint Francis is one of the world's most popular and beloved saints. He is the patron of animals, merchants, and ecology. Francis was born in Assisi, Italy in 1181 to wealthy parents. His father was a silk merchant who nicknamed his son Francis after France, a nation and culture which he admired. Francis enjoyed a comfortable youth and had many friends. He himself said that he lived in sin during his teenage years. As a young man, Francis thirsted for glory. While setting out to join the Fourth Crusade, God spoke to Francis and told him to return home. Francis was humiliated, but he obeyed. Later, when he encountered a leper, Francis was moved with compassion and he gave the man a kiss as a sign of peace. Afterwards, the man vanished. Francis concluded God had been testing him. The final moment of conversion came when Francis visited a dilapidated church, and he heard God ask him to rebuild the church. Francis assumed God wanted him to rebuild the church he was praying in, so he stole money and cloth from his father to do it. Enraged, Francis's father took his son to the bishop and sued him for the money. The bishop ordered Francis to repay it, and Francis responded by renouncing his inheritance and his family and dedicating his life to serving the poor. Francis took to the streets and lived day to day, relying on God to provide. As he went about, he cared for the sick and the poor. Francis became legendary for his compassion. It said he could talk to the animals. Followers flocked to Francis, and he established an order of monks. Today it is the Franciscan order. Francis lived a life so holy he was canonized just 2 years after his death. Today, St. Francis intercedes on behalf of faithful Catholics around the world, and a great number of miracles are attributed to his name.